Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and warm welcome to HansaMatrix Investor Webinar. Today we are hosted by the CEO of HansaMatrix, Ilmārs Osmanis, and CFO, Māris Macijevskis. As always, we will start with the company's presentation, which will be followed by questions and answers session. Therefore, you are kindly invited, I would say even encouraged, to participate by typing your question in the questions box, which can be found in the settings panel zone on the right side. Ilmār, Māri, I invite you to start the presentation.
Hello, everybody who joined our webinar, and I hope it will be interesting. And I also encourage you to give us questions and give us suggestions and make it more interactive, proactive. So we're starting its innovation HansaMatrix Q4 and 12-month results of 2020. Presenting by myself, and Māris Macijevskis will also be part of it. So I'm starting with the executive summary. Business trends. Of course, we still live in a global COVID pandemic crisis. Emergency situation extended in Latvia up to April 6, 2021, which kind of touches schools, which touches all kind of retail sector and tourism and other areas of their life. Of course, it touches also our manufacturing operation from the angle, first of all, that personal safety issues. It still continue to be critical over current next period. Overall, we are having currently 16 HansaMatrix employees being tested COVID positive, and they had to stay isolated for illness and recovery period. However, we continue to operate plants due to the fact we have quite good these regulations and protocols for operation. Few other trends started this year. From beginning started first of all, global component shortage starting take place. So first of all, demand on semiconductors exceeds supply currently. We have to wait certain time before supply chains react to it. Secondly, transportation disruption again is a factor. Beginning of year, shipping goods from Asia to Europe for disbalanced and complaints are transaction firms complain that containers do not return to the ports of the Asia for repeated use. And there is, of course, some other trends that increased growth in remote data connectivity of business, work studies, and other areas of life. Demand for data network products is strong, and we continue to see this in our order book. Q4 2020 Q4 summary. If looking into figures, revenue in Q4 was achieved almost as high as it been in Q4 year before. That's still 15% lower. However, EBITDA margins been better by 12%, reaching 0.783, and that's in year to 2020 second largest quarter. EBITDA margin for the period was 13.9%. Net profit amounted to 19,000, and profit margin was 0.35%. And taking full year, the full year we are having figures 22.66, and EBITDA is 2.90, roughly 3 million, and margin is 13.22. And of course, all these figures are due to the first 2 quarters disruptions due to situation. Comparison with peers. Let's see what other companies are performing, and we can clearly see quite high margins from the same players as for previous periods. So Incap is in a top line, HansaMatrix is in a second line, so followed by Note and Kitron. And others, we are talking EBITDA margins here, and others are below by 6.48. let's go further. Now we are going to the chapter about Q4 results after 2020 in detail, and I'll pass the floor to Māris. Mari, are you ready?
Yeah, thank you, Ilmārs. I'm ready.
Okay, so Mari, take the floor now.
So Q4 results of 2020 in detail. In the fourth quarter of 2020, the revenue amounted to 5.6 million, which was a 15% decrease on year-on-year basis and a 14% decrease on to the previous quarter, Q3 of 2020. Then revenues by region. Three main regions to which we provided manufacturing services were Baltic states, 55% of total, Nordic countries, 17%, and outside the EU countries, 11% of total. And as you can see, services provided to the rest of EU this quarter were 11% of total. And this quarter, the revenue on year-on-year basis increased in Baltics and outside the EU, but decreased in Nordics and the rest of EU. And then going to revenue split, quarterly revenue split by market sector. Two key sectors were data network products with 48% and industrial with 31% of the total revenue. IoT, optics, and other product sectors were smaller and in a range from 4 to 10%. And in terms of growth, in the fourth quarter of 2020, revenues in data networks and other product segment increased quite significantly. However, other segments decreased. Next, regarding profitability results, EBITDA amounted to nearly 800,000, which was a better performance than a year ago. And also, it could be noted that this last quarter of 2020 was better than Q1 and Q2 of 2020. So we can say, however, the pandemic is continuing, we are sort of used to it and adopted and improved our performance if we are looking at these indicators. Yeah, net profit was 20,000 and was down compared to year-on-year basis. And then going to the year results in total, the revenues amounted to 22.6 million euros, which was still a decrease by 8% compared to the year ago, but increase if compared to 2018. Then split by the region, Baltic states 44%, Nordics 22%, the rest of EU 21%, and outside the EU 11%, with revenues outside the EU growing and other regions revenues decreasing on year-on-year basis. The next yearly sales by sectors. Two key main sectors were data networks and industrial products with 44% and 38% of total revenues, and IoT, optics, and other products were smaller and in the range of 5 to 7%. And as you can see, data networks and other product sector increased in this period, and other sectors decreased. And then speaking about profitability, in 2020 we reached EBITDA of 3 million, which was a 19% decrease on a year-on-year basis. And the company operated with loss of nearly 500,000, and EBITDA margin was 13%. And as Ilmārs already mentioned, performance was influenced by COVID-19 extraordinary situation in Q1 and Q2 mostly through supply chain disruptions and demand decrease for some products. Then trailing 12 months results. Ilmārs uz priekšu. These are trailing 12 months results. These are essentially the same as the 2020 results, so I will not repeat. Maybe comment on trend of net profitability, which is decreasing, which is explained by EIB loan interest provisions and increasing ownership in Lightspace and related losses from this associate, and also recently related to COVID-19 extraordinary situation. And now I would give floor to Ilmārs to continue.
Yeah, thank you, Mari, for financial details. I will provide update on other aspects of business. 2020 R&D revenue, Q4. We have kind of looking into charts. We see quite increase in Q4. It's not really that we did many times more than other sectors. It was just related that some of projects were accomplished and some invoices were issued on Q4. So if we would average across the full year, we would be the same, probably proportionally the same level as year before. So it was Q4 was reported close to 89 million euros, but which is increased like quarter to quarter, but it was 15% share of consolidated sales of quarter. But if you take 12 months consolidated revenue, it's 7.6. That's about similar as year before. Investments certainly going through this period with like kind of a little bit of panic in April and May, and also being supported by banks through the cash flows. Actually, we did restrict our investments, so company reporting investments only 250,000 euros in Q4, and overall 19.97 million in 12-month period, so relatively a little smaller than we would do in normal circumstances. But still, there were some investments needed, and these are mostly carried out to maintain manufacturing equipment and other assets. Associate companies, investments associate companies subsidiaries in Q4 12 months 2020. Lightspace Technologies. There were no made any investments in Q4, and if you take 12 months, that only 500,000 was really provided for the Lightspace in 2020. That was kind of provided for technology R&D and commercialization of 3D display technologies, mostly AR headsets. At the end of the year 2020, investment in Lightspace Technologies amounted to 8.67 million euros. Part 4.96 as a convertible loan and 3.971 as equity value. Zinātnes Q4 investment was 70,000, and 240 million euros in 12-month period. As a parameter for the industrial estate project maintenance and completion Riga Airport. As end of 2020, investment in Riga Zinātnes is totally amounted to 1.87 million, which are also split partly convertible loan and partly as equity. There will be more about this in questions answers. Business development of Lightspace Technologies. In last year, of course, there were a couple noticeable things happening. HansaMatrix, Lightspace have signed grant agreement with European Commission to receive grant funding of 2.25 million euro from Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Program. That was middle of year, which actually provided needed liquidity and support for continuing of product development. And it was also approved further up to 1.7 million euro equity investment by EC fund, expected received by Lightspace Technologies blended financing contribution sometime this year. So significant events in 2020 Q4. Probably one of the important events is that HansaMatrix Management Board there was new member appointed to the management board, Jānis Sams, who was recruited and became company's chief operating officer. His previous experience lay with Schneider Group and being at least 10 years in a different industrialization management positions there. Another development was that first investment report or analytics report by Wood & Company was published on HansaMatrix within research program supported by European Bank for Reconstruction Development, available to public. Here is a link. You are welcome to use it and look at this. And also annually renewal agreements were signed with SEB to extend maturity of working capital financing facilities and next annual period for 1 year for aggregate amount of 4.56 million euros. Significant events after reporting period. Actually, in January, we are kind of proud to report that we opened a new manufacturing plant in Ventspils campus, where it's based on 10-year lease agreement with Freeport of Ventspils Authority, with total area 4,600 square meters, and which doubles existing Ventspils manufacturing campus box build capacity. Expecting some production starting there soon. We have already installed our plastic manufacturing department or facility as a part of that new building. So that kind of completes our regular part of presentation. We are kind of coming to Q&A session. Marta, maybe you announce it, please.
Yes, thank you, Ilmārs and Māri, for the presentation. Now let's proceed with the questions, but before I again wanted to remind those who haven't yet submitted their questions that you can still do it in the questions section in the settings panel zone.
Yeah, thank you. So we are proceeding with answers to questions that was submitted before webinar. So you are always welcoming questions that you submit the day before, so we are able to put that up in writing. So those will be answered in a few further slides. Questions coming here after. First is what is the status of HansaMatrix subsidiaries in HansaMatrix project? When is planned to be built and put into operation? Construction project being completed and received final approval in beginning of this year. And of course, HansaMatrix needs to see right now what the needs are, whether it's current priority currently, and so for HansaMatrix, our next plans are to attract real estate investor and anchor tenant, and then co-develop or divest the project in next 3 years. So currently we believe, first of all, this is investment into land plot which is 4.5 hectares, which is next to the new Riga railway station, Riga airport, which is becoming very strategic location, and we need to see how this works out for our real estate development there. Next question is, how do you assess the development life-phase technologies when to be able to generate first revenue, sell the products? According to business plan and actually currently working plan, manufacturing and sales of first products are expected to be in Q1 2022, beginning of next year. And this year will be continued to develop 3 revisions of product prototypes through phases or 3 revisions. So that will be provided for strategic partners for tests and evaluations and validations, though some of them are medical companies, some of them are automotive manufacturing companies. Third question, what will be the main and most significant recent developments related light-phase technologies? I have to say there was no one single significant development connected to light-phase. We've been working according to plan, and what I did just mention that we have started strategic evaluation of our products in some strategic medical companies, and we'll continue through this year to develop the headset according to their wishes and to launch products next year, manufacturing of those. Number 4, what are the main issues to bring down profitability? Is it related to lower sales and increasing weight of fixed costs? If that's related to just yearly for year, of course we have to say that we have all first of all we have a reduction in some order books from some existing customers. First of all, then we had increase from some existing customers. So in overall, sales are slightly lower than year before. Fixed costs, of course, we have extra fixed costs related to COVID situation. We've been keeping some people for some periods in isolation. We've been paying some days for them not to come to work and be home. So also we asked the government support to compensate for that, but that's not fully working here. So you still have the extra cost related to kind of all the personal safety issues and management of situation. So yes, it's lower sales mostly, and because of the and fixed costs kind of are staying on the same level. So what are the main reasons behind logistics problem? Is supply beginning to grow regarding transport? It's still capacity issue. Air freight is not recovered. There is deficit in air freight capacity. Railway transportation from Asia is at working full capacity as well, and sea cargo is unfortunately experiencing deficit of sea containers. Basically, return to them to Asia, so they are not really kind of traveling or through the cycles forward, backward, and this kind of the lack of kind of transportation capacity in general. 6. Question 6. Please elaborate more what kind of problems face clients with decreasing orders, which sectors? We have found several customers that have which decreased ordering and their business. So what we're seeing, it's industrial sector noticeably, IoTs and some other sectors. And as examples, there are industrial customers with the global sales to energy sector in infrastructure, which requires product that needs field installation and training, which in this situation it's kind of not possible to do at full scale or needed scale, so it's reducing ordering. Then it's industrial sector. We have customer who is supplying typography equipment, printing houses and related organizations, and they're reporting sharp decrease in printed material circulation and decrease of need in equipments to kind of provide that, which probably partially will come back after that. However, there will be some changes, probably in structural changes in business. IoT sector, for example, we have IoT sector client in vending machine business, and he reports decrease in coffee vending machine demand for installation in public places. So these people are not allowed to go there, so there's no point to have coffee machines. So these areas show decrease of the demand. So it's kind of translates into supply chain. 7. How big extra costs related to COVID-19? I would say it's not so easy to calculate everything, and of course we always say, well, plants are operating and we are supplying all the order book. Of course we have those costs, and I would say we would estimate that 20% of top and middle management time are spent on COVID related issues. impact reporting, personal safety, organizational issues, supply chain issue management, and all other things. And probably you can attribute directly days pay for the per days to some people. We haven't really collected that data. We think we could generally estimate that possibly 5% of really all the salary related costs are probably based or added to due to the COVID, and 20% of top middle management time cost or middle management costs are related to COVID-19 related issues. So roughly, I would say on turnover, it probably could work out like 2-3% of the turnover. But that's very rough estimate. Don't count that as a precise reference. Question 8: When do you expect electronics component supply to improve? Well, there are reports stating that in this year, Q3, Q4, supply have to match increased demand. Well, we don't know really how demand will develop. Maybe demand will develop further. So really, this is purely speculation. But typically before COVID, there still was supply chain fluctuations. There was so-called 3-year cycle of the corrections, supply chain modernization, corrections of capacity, and all. And what was observed in the global market, that always management decisions was overreacting in all circumstances. To increasing supply capacity was overreacted, overinvested. Also cutting old extra capacity was overreacting. So basically it creates kind of three years fluctuations on supply chain. So this probably is part of that process. So COVID is putting on top of this. We believe end of this year things will normalize, but however, we cannot really be sure on that. So yeah, that completes my questions submitted before webinar. So Marta, please. Look at what's submitted now.
Thank you. So let's proceed with questions. The first question we have received now: how much of the agreed Horizon funding is already received, and what is the timeline for the rest of this funding?
It's quite precisely can be told. It's 2-year project, 2-year funding, starting with the 1st of July 2020. And it ends 2022, July again, 30th of June. It was received as in similar projects, 55% of the pre-funding total funding was received in the beginning as pre-financing, and then 10% is after project being completed. So, and the rest is coming in the middle of the period after submitting first year reporting. So 55 plus 10 would be 65. So 35% comes in possibly August 2021. And that's like very similar as any other Horizon project, really.
Thank you. Next, when do you expect to sign EIC fund financing agreement?
A good question. Well, according to what was basically, we started the process. We started the process in September last year, and EIC fund actually, if you looked in the website, actually made first investment decisions only beginning of January this year, and these were for the companies who were applying and were granted this facility. Well, they were applying December 2019. So I've been told initially that it might take 9-10 months to get to the final to sign agreement, which would from the September. So that would go into April, May. So I believe by April it should be done. Things go. We have passed 4th step in 5-step process. In coming period, shortly we expect some decisions from the final decisions from committee, and then of course work with lawyers for some period and getting agreements prepared for signatures. I think we are in process, quite far process. I think another 1-2 months might it end. It's European Investment Bank who manages that, so that's not necessarily fastest organization in the world. So yeah.
We have received follow-up question regarding this EIC funding. At what valuation EIC is investing into LH?
Yeah, the point is EIC fund is not investing. It's not providing valuation. It's investing on pari passu principle with any private investor. So they can provide funds on convertible loan basis, bridge loan basis. So basically, any next investment round, private investors will define this valuation, as also for this for EC fund investments.
Thank you. Can you please update on expected Lightspace headset deliveries for 2021?
Yeah, as I already mentioned in doing general presentation, we are planning to supply headsets in prototype revisions of headsets to number of our strategic partners who we already are engaged with. Numbers probably we are talking probably about 50 to 100 units in this year, depending a little bit on the supply chain side, because what we are seeing some delays in supply chain from Asia on some optical parts, again due to the same factors as HansaMatrix supply chains are not performing precisely on time. And so we're expecting so-called alpha prototypes to be ready also to share with our partner strategic partners in May-June period, and then we're calling beta will be ready according to plan August-September. This will be another 50 units maybe in Q3 Q4. And that could be intermediate versions of them as well, but these will be the so we believe maybe up to 100 units might go out this year for validation and prototype kind of testing purpose.
Thank you. The next question was already partially answered during Q&A session, but I will read it once more. So how serious is the component shortage issue at this point, and when you expect it to be solved? And additionally, regarding semiconductor shortages, is it impacting communication and industrial chips equally, or one more than other?
Yeah, let's say mostly it's well, you have transportation issues which are delaying generally all the goods if they are manufactured or shipped around the world. That's one thing. So they equal everything equally. But that doesn't increase so dramatically lead times. But what we saw from number of vendors or manufacturers of semiconductor parts, that lead times, as an example, for Qualcomm, for example, increasing, like doubling from being typically 14-16 weeks to going up to 30 weeks, so it's just quite long lead time. What if that's probably more impacting these sectors that experience the growth right now, because those who experience growth, no one really expected COVID, so no one expected that this remote connectivity requirement or global demand grows so quickly. And semiconductor manufacturing process is like it's really half-year process from raw material till a finished product. So I think planning of that was not really possible. So basically, I think supply for parts for, I would say, from areas which are experiencing growth now are the most in risk. If you have read, there was news that some of I think Ford closed automotive car manufacturing line for a week just because there's no processors to put in computers, and Volkswagen had similar problem. So again, these are new models of cars, and because of becoming electric, so structurally changing market, so that that requires more of semiconductor devices than any car before of that. So I think this relates more to those areas which require high growth right now.
Thank you. The next question, what is the total CapEx planned for the new Ventspils manufacturing site, including equipment, etc.?
As I say, we cannot really announce precise figures right now. What we are already done, we as you maybe if you followed us, that we opened small, very packed small department of plastic parts manufacturing already on existing building like year ago, but it was very packed, so it was not really proper to operate it in such compact, in such small corner. So we moved that department over to the new building. That was expected to do as a first thing, and so we kind of already made investment on new manufacturing site. However, it's the existing equipment. Certainly, it very much depends what you're going produce there. We are right now negotiating with customer one new project, which might require some additional capex, but this won't be heavy investment. I would say we still are looking to like depreciation level of investment in Ventspils site. Well, if there will be any substantial changes to it or any new projects that we launch, we certainly will inform shareholders in the next period webinars or between them. With follow our news, please.
Next question, among industrial customers, are orders being delayed or cancelled mostly?
Of course, both. I would say both. Let's say it's more than being delayed, but if the sector has a demand drop, so you have to expect that first of all the existing orders last longer, and the new orders are not placed. So basically, it's we maybe are working out existing orders in longer periods, so meaning a lower turnover at that period, and maybe fewer new orders or no new orders situation. So it's not really cancelled, it's more delayed and spread delayed over longer period, and smaller amount of new orders may be placed. I think that's the situation.
Thank you. So the last question we have received was already partially answered in Q&A session about quantifying the additional costs of COVID-related measures. Would you like to add something more to it?
Yeah, no, I think I talked quite much already on this one. COVID. But here actually there is one question I think you skipped. How serious the component shortage at this point? When it will be solved, it's kind of related to semiconductor, but just have to say we had to put 1 week for one manufacturing team. We had to have 1 week of the standby mode or Digstave because of lack of components. So we had to stop production for 1 week at one of the production lines already this year for the lack of the component shortages. But so we don't know how this proceeds because there are two effects. There is transportation disruption and semiconductor shortage, and both are, we don't have much control in it. We just have to kind of live with that. Yeah, I think COVID I already tried to quantify COVID impact.
Thank you. We received another question now. Do you see any potential immediate buyers for the Zinātnes property in its current status? Is it valued by any appraisers?
Yes, we have evaluation of this. We have evaluation, and if you would have one, we probably would look into consider. Our generally plan is, during construction phase there will be need for construction companies, maybe for additional place to put the equipment, and so we think that value of this real estate would grow for next 2-3 years and will be higher when this railway construction will be completed. So for that reason, we might go with some renting out it space for some construction firm, maybe to use it for those periods and see better. But of course, we will consider. We also consider. We'll consider any offers if they will come. Yeah, but we have valuation, of course, done refreshed and we know the value of it. But we won't announce that here.
Thank you. So all questions are now answered. Recording of the webinar will be available in the Nasdaq Baltic YouTube channel and also in company's announcements. Ilmārs and Mari, thank you once more for the presentation and for answers given. Participants, thank you for joining and participating actively.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening to us, and thank you very much for also your impact on the share prices. Okay, have a good day.
Thank you.